I mean, the DeSantis. Yeah, but I don't want to live in the Civil War.
I agree with that.
You know what? But you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, this is a blue state and that's a red state, and I don't want to live in that country. I like Florida.
I'm with you. And by the way, I like Florida as well. I like all these states. I completely agree.
California has rules about every nitpicky thing you can imagine. If you don't believe me, try parking in Santa Monica. Or starting a business, or getting your solar power hooked up. You can't fly a kite in a park in Beverly Hills, or ride a bicycle, or climb a tree. But for 30 years, Nestle took water out of the San Bernardino National Forest under a permit that expired in 1988. And Coca-Cola is somehow allowed to take water from municipal water supplies, stick it in bottles, and sell it back to the taxpayers who own the water to begin with. 395,000 regular.
Bill Maher just did what almost nobody in liberal media is willing to do anymore. He confronted Gavin Newsom and turned it into a public demolition. He didn't soften a word. He didn't ease him in. But before we move further, if you enjoy short commentary videos with full breakdowns, take just 2 seconds to subscribe to the channel. Alright, now let's get back to our video.
They know. They know. We are the most regulated state in the nation with more than 395,000 regulatory restrictions. It is a constant nightmare of inspectors and permits and fees. In this state, if you get to your car 10 seconds after the parking meter expires, it's already gone and you'll never see it again. California has rules about every nitpicky thing you can imagine. If you don't believe me, try parking in Santa Monica. Or starting a business, or getting your solar power hooked up. You can't fly a kite in a park in Beverly Hills, or ride a bicycle, or climb a tree. But for 30 years, Nestle took water out of the San Bernardino National Forest under a permit that expired in 1988. And Coca-Cola is somehow allowed to take water from municipal water supplies, stick it in bottles, and sell it back to the taxpayers who own the water to begin with. 395,000 regulations, but somehow that slipped through the cracks?
395,000 regulations. Read that number again. That is not a state anymore. That is a bureaucratic prison with a beach. Critics say California has become one giant office of no permit, no parking, no building, no business, no easy anything. And Maher's whole point in that clip is the perfect trap. The same government that fines you for standing 5 feet from a parking meter somehow forgot to notice that Nestle was pumping water out of a national forest under an expired permit for 30 years. This is corruption dressed up as regulation.
As far as the red tape, I see that they're all, Newsom, Bass, they're all saying, we're going to cut red tape, as if they're doing us a favor. My question is, well, if you can do it now, why don't you always do it? Obviously, it can be done. It's not a favor to us to cut the red tape. Why do we live in this state, in this red tape nightmare, the other times of the year when we're not on fire? I always think there's a middle of the road, actual practical solution to everything. And for this, I would say, was California's uber progressive politics the cause of this fire? Of course not. Did it impede them to some degree? Absolutely. That's the margin of error. I'm saying we can't abide by anything.
There it is. The question every Californian has been dying to ask. If Newsom can cut through the red tape during wildfires, why not during the rest of the year? Critics believe this one line destroys every excuse California Democrats have used for a decade. The rules aren't there because they have to be. They're there because the government decided they have to be. And that right there is Maher's whole point. The regulation nightmare is just a choice.
Now you've opened an interesting can of worms, Mr. Gaffigan. So, first of all, you think Gavin Newsom is running for president?
I think he is the likely alternative.
That's interesting because I like Gavin a lot. Now, I hope he runs for president because I think getting to the national stage would help with the one thing I have trouble with him about, which is sometimes he's way too cuckoo woke left bullshit. You know, the California
Well, he was
shit.
He was the mayor of San Francisco, right?
Yeah, but you know, that was a different time, and fighting for rights was, you know, a great thing.
Yeah.
At a time when that fight was still going on and needed to be fought on that level.
I remember moving to New York in the early 90s.
Way too Google woke left, said by a fan of Newsom, said on national television, said with the smile of a friend who is actually done pretending. And that is the diagnosis every serious Democratic strategist agrees with in private, but nobody dares to say in public. And in Maher's view, this is the exact problem that will follow Newsom onto the national stage. He can polish the suit, he can polish the hair, he cannot polish out San Francisco.
And then whenever I read 80% of the water goes to agriculture. Almonds.
Right.
No one ever asked you about almonds? Oh, I'm going to ask you about almonds. We grow a boatload of
I'm
almonds
well
here.
aware.
You know how much water it takes?
Many gallons.
1,900 gallons to grow a pound of almonds. Yeah. Come on, man. take on big almond.
Take on big almonds.
I mean, it's not like we don't have the water.
No. But you're right about it. It's not that we don't have the water. That said, you know, the last couple of years were tough. I mean, it's also where the water's falling and we're not capturing it. And we're not capturing those extreme years with these atmospheric rivers. Wets are getting a lot wetter, dry's drier, hot's getting a lot hotter. And so we've got to modernize our conveyance system. We've got to modernize our storage, not just above ground, but below ground. And so that's a big part of our focus and frame, including desalinization plants. We have 20 projects just on desal that we're working on today. So we put out a detailed water strategy that includes, by the way, getting that Delta conveyance project back up and operational, and includes the first above ground off stream storage facility in half a century in the state, which, by the way, is being aided by a regulatory package I pushed forward to reduce red tape in the state of California and address the permitting quagmires that you rightfully pointed out.
1,900 gallons of water to grow 1 pound of almonds. That is not a farming policy. That is madness, dressed up as agriculture. Critics say California grows almonds for the world while its own citizens sit through drought after drought and get lectured about turning off the tap while brushing their teeth. And Maher's line about big almonds cuts, because it's true, the same politicians who claim to care about water refuse to touch the industry using 80% of it. In Maher's view, this is the whole California scam in one crop. Blame ordinary people for the problem. Protect the powerful industries causing it.
Well,
You're not able to actually encourage and find that common
no, it's
ground.
stuff like there's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral
the toys.
toy department.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I get it.
So do you think that's
No, but it's
silly?
interesting.
Do you think that's a silly thing that
What was interesting?
we too much government there?
Look, that's an interesting one because the department stores came to us supporting that, and they were the ones making a case for that. They were making a case. They're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know the top priorities are homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation and taxes, which are all top of mind.
The gender-neutral toy department, live on television, right to Newsom's face. And Newsom's answer is even worse than the law itself. Some critics say this was the moment Newsom looked like every out-of-touch California politician the country already knows he is. The state is #1 in homelessness, #1 in taxes, #1 in outmigration. And what does the government spend its time on? A law about how department stores arrange the toy aisle. That right there is what Maher means when he says, way too Google woke left.
But here's, I feel like the last couple of years you've like purposely picked this fight with the red states. I mean, the DeSantis. Yeah, but I don't want to live in the Civil War country.
I agree with that.
You know what?
Well,
but you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, this is a blue state and that's a red state, and I don't want to live in that country. I like Florida.
I'm with you. And by the way, I like Florida as well. I like all these states. I completely agree. I don't want to have a state of mind that's a constant fight or flight. We've gone through so much. We've been polarized and traumatized. There's been a tough 5-6 years across the globe, not just in this country. That said, I'm not going to sit back and watch You made the point just a moment ago in your monologue. You got folks out there trying to bring us back to a pre-1960s world, America in reverse.